There are women who become famous for playing prisoners. And then there are women who were already living in a cage before the cameras ever turned on. Jeri Ryan was 30 when she stepped onto the soundstage of Star Trek, Voyager, wearing a silver catsuit that made her the most photographed woman on television. The producers who put her in that costume looked at the dailies and knew they'd turned a classically trained actress into a centerfold and called it character development. But the catsuit wasn't the cage. The cage had been there for 11 years already, and nobody had any idea. She was 19 when she married Jack Ryan. Not the politician. A man 20 years older, wealthy, powerful in medical device circles, and exactly the kind of man a young woman from Kansas mistakes for safety. Her family loved him. Jeri smiled at photographs and stood beside a man who made her feel protected in the way a vault protects whatever is locked inside it. For 11 years, she played the role of a successful man's wife the way she would later play a Borg drone. She showed up. She looked the part. She hit her marks. And she absorbed the quiet erosion that changes the shape of a person's voice, speaking in a register that doesn't belong to you because the person across the table responds better to it. Nobody knew. Not her colleagues. Not her co-stars. Not the producers who put her on magazine covers and assumed she was living the dream. Because the thing about a woman in a catsuit on national television is that everybody thinks she's powerful. Nobody asks if she's safe. The turning point came on that Star Trek set. She looked at a costume designer who'd been told to make her look like a machine and realized something. She'd been dressed like a machine for 11 years. The silver was different. The control was the same. She left Jack Ryan in 1999. The press called it an affair. She'd met Brannon Braga, the Star Trek producer, and the tabloids wrote the story they always write when a woman leaves an older, richer man. She traded up. She wanted fame. That version of the story was convenient. It wasn't true. The truth, about a woman slowly suffocating in a marriage she couldn't explain to her family or herself, didn't fit the headline. So she let the headline run. She took the judgment. She absorbed it the way she'd absorbed everything else. The catsuit years on Voyager were some of the hardest of her life. 16-hour days in a costume that required 2 people to zip and didn't allow bathroom breaks. Playing a character stripped of emotions, while her own were so raw she'd cry in the makeup trailer between takes. The crew thought it was the contacts. It wasn't. She went public about the marriage years later. At a convention, a fan asked about the hardest part of playing 7 of 9. She said, without planning to, pretending to be someone who didn't feel anything wasn't hard. I'd been doing that for years. The room went quiet. Because the woman in front of them had spent years living a double life that nobody had the language to name, not a scandal, not a betrayal, just the slow suffocation of a woman who'd been told she was lucky and knew she was drowning. Jeri Ryan didn't shock anyone by revealing her secret. She shocked them because when she finally told the truth, it sounded exactly like what millions of women were doing at that exact moment, smiling, showing up, hitting their marks, and waiting for a door to open. If there's a version of you that's been performing while you're drowning, the perfect partner, the grateful wife, the woman in a costume everyone assumes fits, hit subscribe. The cages without bars are the hardest to explain. And you don't have to carry the silence anymore.